The previous video described the rise of evil, and now in part 7 of this series, we come to the long-anticipated return of Jesus Christ. All four Gospels and the book of Revelation consistently anticipate the second coming of Jesus, which includes God's final judgment of all people who have ever lived. The book of Revelation, chapter 19, puts it like this: "Let us rejoice and be glad and give him glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come and his bride has made herself ready." Christians who take the Bible literally believe in the rapture, which means at this point Jesus will be bringing his bride, the church, from heaven back into the world again, whilst other Christians believe Jesus will be returning to gather his church as a bridegroom meets his wife-to-be. The main thing is that Jesus will return and be united with his bride, the church, at the last judgment. Let me quote from Luke's Gospel. "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint from terror, apprehensive at what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." People of faith are naturally curious to know exactly when Jesus will return, and Matthew chapter 24 has various things to say. But first, about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only God the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Nation will rise against nation. The increase of war and violence will be evident. The powers in the heavens will be shaken with earthquakes, famines, and pestilence. There will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. Because of the lawlessness that will abound, the love of many will grow cold, leading to immorality and lawless behavior. Finally, the rise of false prophets and false messiahs will occur. And in the past, I've spoken about the rise of one world political system, etc. There are some other points in the Bible which you may like to read if you want to freeze the video at this point. Well, we've seen this image several times before in the series, and the words that go with it. "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other." These words of Jesus about a loud trumpet call so inspired Handel that he added a trumpet call to his wonderful composition, The Messiah. In popular culture, Bob Dylan had a song back in 1979 which picked up the Bible teaching on the second coming. Bob wrote, "Slow train coming," whilst in transition from the Jewish faith and into following Jesus Christ. His track called "When He Returns" includes this powerful line: "There'll be no peace, that the war won't cease until He returns." Which brings us on to the last judgment. The resurrection of the dead is a mind-boggling event for us to imagine. But in this famous painting back in 1925, Sir Stanley Spencer shows how it might look in his local parish churchyard at Cookham in Berkshire. By the way, headstones normally face east towards Jerusalem, except for the parish priest, who is often buried facing west, just as they would be when conducting a worship service. Jesus draws a comparison of the Last Judgment as being similar to a shepherd who gathers his flock, then separates the sheep from the goats. Those who are trusting in Christ alone for salvation will be saved, but sadly, maybe not so many others. The saved are destined for heaven, and the others are destined to be separated from God for all eternity. Some Christian denominations are expecting most people will be saved, whilst other denominations anticipate most will be damned. But the reality is that God alone knows what the outcome will be. What we do know from Paul's first letter to Timothy is that God desires for everyone to be saved and come to a knowledge of the truth. As we heard right at the beginning of this series in parts 2 and 3, Jesus came into the world on a rescue mission to a lost and sinful world. He freely surrendered his life on the cross, and on the third day was raised again in a new and mysterious body. What more could God do? We are made in his image, which means we have free will to choose, unlike animals that behave instinctively, or robots that could be programmed to say they love God, but it would all be meaningless. Surely, like a parent whose child chooses to go his own way, God respects a person's decision, whilst at times feeling broken-hearted. One of the most important decisions in every person's life is deciding whether or not to receive the gift of salvation which is freely offered by Jesus Christ, or instead to go your own way.